I'm pleased to welcome Nate Fick, former U.S. Ambassador at Large for Cyberspace and Digital Policy. He'll be joined by Yukio Saita, Global Strategy Lead in the National Cybersecurity Office of the Government of Japan, David Ko, Chief Executive of the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, and Ambassador Brendan Dowling, Deputy Secretary of Critical Infrastructure and National Resilience at the Australian Department of Home Affairs.
Okay, thank you all very much for being here. We've all been to enough of these to know that people don't come for the panels, they come for what's happening out there. We're going to do our best in the next 40 minutes to change that at least a little bit. And so just to start, gentlemen, we're in Washington, which is probably the most self-referential city in the world. So people in Washington are fond of talking about other parts of the world from their perspective, but you three are all leaders in cybersecurity in the Asia Pacific. So from your perspective, what makes the region different and important? Brendan, we'll start with you and we'll come down the line.
Fantastic, thanks, Nate. Look, the Asia Pacific is the fastest growing economic region in the world. It is advancing at pace in the adoption of technology, the digital transformation, and it is now, next to Eastern Europe and Russia, the most geopolitically contested part of the world. So all that is to say, the Asia Pacific region matters for commercial and for strategic reasons. It faces a lot of challenges in its digitalisation journey. China is the dominant strategic power and the dominant technology power in the region. You take a country like Australia, we are geographically in Asia, we are culturally closer to the UK and the US, and technologically we are far more deeply intertwined with the US system. But we live in a region where the technology stack is generally dominated by Chinese technology. What that means for us is that we are navigating a very tricky world, tricky dynamics, as we try to maintain our sovereignty and security in the face of geopolitical circumstances that are deteriorating faster than most of us have seen in our lifetimes. So much of that is tied up in our technology decisions. For Australia, we've made some tough decisions in recent years. We were the first country to exclude high-risk vendors from our telecommunications network. But for a lot of our neighbouring countries, Indonesia, the Philippines, countries in the Pacific, the choice is even harder. They are facing the choice between what they can afford, which is often lower quality, less secure technology, and what is secure, which can often be higher priced, maybe out of a European and US vendor. So the technology dynamics in the Asia-Pacific region look very different than the technology dynamics do in this town, but those decisions have major strategic implications here.
Thank you. David.
Thanks. I'll build on what Brendan said and add perhaps a slight historical twist to it. Well, the Asia-Pacific benefited from the security architecture that was put in place post-World War II by the United States. You guys imposed a rules-based order which allowed the countries in the Asia-Pacific to focus on economic development, not on security contestation, and allowed us to grow economically, building on trade and our own growth. My country, Singapore, is a huge beneficiary of what has happened in the last 70 years. The countries on this panel support the US continued presence, military presence, in the Asia-Pacific. Singapore, for example, opened up our naval and air bases to the US after you lost use of your bases in Clark and Subic. The Changi Naval Base continues to be the facility which most visited by the United States Navy. Now, today, this rules-based international order is under tremendous threat. It is under stress and increasingly being challenged in the Asia-Pacific, both in the physical domain and in the digital cyber domain. So what does this mean for us? Well, I would say that the countries in the Asia-Pacific want to develop. what that means is that we want to reap the benefits of the digital economy. We want good jobs, we want education, but that means that you need cybersecurity. Otherwise, you can't benefit from all of this. So cyber is an enabler for reaping the benefits of the digital economy. Countries want access. So it's trade, rules-based international order, and increasingly this trade is also done in the digital domain. And lastly, similar to what Brandon said, we need to be secure and resilient. So that means from a digital perspective, we need capacity building and a rules-based international order.
Yukio.
Thank you, Nate. And thank you, Brandon and David. It's always good to talk last, and I don't think I have much to add to those two teachers in a sense. I was cyber ambassador of Japan last year, and at that time I had a meeting with Nate and Brandon and David, and I'm quite new to this cybersecurity world, and they are all my teachers. And so, as a humble Japanese, it's kind of difficult to add, to what teachers said. But yes, one thing I would first like to add is, we are in this Asia-Pacific region connected by sea. So whenever we think about security, whether or not it's economic or cyber, we have to, think based on that simple fact. We are connected by the sea. So, undersea cables and seaports and other connectivity has a crucial meaning to us. And second addition would be rule-based order. Yes, that's a critical importance again. We need to have a stable environment where all the countries in the region can devote their energies and resources to the economic development. And so to do so, Japan has been advocating FOIP, F-O-I-P, free and open Indo-Pacific. And we don't say free and open Asia-Pacific. We usually say Indo-Pacific. So this is a quite big difference between Asia-Pacific and Indo-Pacific, because obviously, whether or not India is included or not. Yeah. When we think about the security matters in the region, India could play a important role. And so we do have the framework called Quad, consists of Japan, the US, and Australia, and India. So that Quad nation framework is a quite important vehicle to advance cooperation, including cybersecurity. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So everything that you've said, all three of you, sounds to me very consistent, very stable, quite bipartisan, actually, in our system over time. And yet, this year, something feels different. So and Yukio, we're going to come first to you on this and go down the line the other way. The question is, what is different from your perspective in this first year of the Trump administration? And maybe I'll give you 10 seconds to think about that. And just thank you, Yukio. Thank you for raising the fact that we four have all worked together a lot. And a great concept in diplomacy is this idea of the last 3 feet, where every one of us, well, I used to, you three do now, have all the resources of a government behind you, all of that institutional memory and history and tradition, but it all comes to a point in that last 3 feet where you walk into a room and you look somebody in the eye and you shake hands across the table and you try to sit down and get something done, usually something difficult. And it's an important concept, and it's built on trust. And I'm profoundly grateful having had the opportunity to develop that relationship with all of you. So having said that nice thing, now back to my hard question. Yukio, what's different this year?
Me first, okay. Yes, yes. I'm a good student, and kind of difficult again. But actually, seriously speaking, yes, this year Japan and the U.S. had a quite good tempo of making cooperation between the two countries. And as you may know, now the Japanese government has a female prime minister for the first time in our history. And President Trump made a visit between the ASEAN summit meeting and the APEC meeting, which were held in Malaysia and ROK. So he visited Japan and had a wonderful summit meetings and create trust between the leaders. And Prime Minister Takaichi has a strong interest in advancing national security, including, again, economic security and the cybersecurity. And so she's planning to strengthen our defense capabilities. And of course, when we talk about defense capabilities, cybersecurity is an important part of it. So I'm sorry, but, and actually, yes, this year we had a Japan-US cyber dialogue in June. And so this is an annual dialogue. So of course we had one last year and this year again. So we are expecting one next year. So as far as cybersecurity is concerned, we have again tempo here to engage each other. So I hope we have that kind of dynamics, momentum, and the tempo continues. Thank you.
In Singapore, we just had the Singapore International Cyber Week last month. And that is a huge event. I think it's probably top 2 or 3 in the world after RSA. And traditionally, we have a huge contingent from the US. All right. So I was just commenting to Nate that this year was different because almost no one from the US administration came to the Singapore International Cyber Week. So it's significant because this is an opportunity to engage the region. The region, as has been discussed, is one of the most hotly contested geopolitically. And it is a contest of ideas. As Nate said, it's that last 3 feet. When you come in, you look people in the eye. You can't look people in the eye if you're not showing up. We need you to be out there. We need you to be engaging the people, right? If you don't show up, then I'm sorry to say that other people are showing up. And they are painting their narrative, and they're painting their vision of what the region ought to look like. All the countries in Southeast Asia have China as their number 1 or number 2 trading partner. The economic gravitational pull is significant. The US has huge investments, interests in Southeast Asia. So, I mean, historically, it's an issue of stock and flow. The amount of stock of investment in Southeast Asia is huge. So your interests are there. I think it is important that you do show up. And I think that is significant. I come for Aspen, and another difference is that there are no serving US administration officials here, except for Sean Crane-Cross this morning. So that's another issue that's different, because traditionally we'll come, we'll interact. I'll see officials interacting with all of you. It is a community. But if you're not here, even to interact with your own community, I think it's a challenge. It is imperative for us, as what Nate said, to build trust. I believe you can only build trust if you come out, make the difference, make the effort. That's why I'm here halfway around the world, in order to meet and to engage. And I think that's what we need to continue to do. And my concern is that if we don't do enough of it, then someone else will take the narrative.
Thank you, David. Brendan.
I think David said it beautifully. We need the US in the region. The peace and order in the Indo-Pacific region in the last 70, 80 years is because it's been a US-backed order. It's in our strategic interest for that to be maintained. To come to your question, Nate, I think for Australia, the US is like family. Through whatever ups and downs there are, the tightness of the relationship remains. The tightness of the alliance remains. We're all in on our alliance with the US, and so the big positive for me is that no matter what administration is in power, we have great access, we've got great partnership. There is a strength to the relationship that stays throughout things. We often proudly say that we've stood by you in every conflict since World War I, some of which were more sensible than others, but nevertheless, we've always been there, and we will always continue to be there. So the strength of the alliance remains really strong through previous and through this administration. I think what is different for me this year, more broad than political dynamics in the US, is the sense of urgency that I think we all collectively feel around the technology challenge. The sense of urgency in that the race has got far more intense, particularly with investments in AI, particularly with the kind of battle for primacy between the US and China. The sense of urgency that our civilian critical infrastructure is under sustained assault from threat actors in a way that is only getting worse. So we've all been working on these issues for a number of years, and despite our best efforts, actually the situation is worse than it's ever been in terms of that threat activity. Our deterrence has not worked really effectively. Our message to Australian businesses, to Australian government agencies, to Australian critical infrastructure operators is we're running out of time. We need to build the defences, the security and the resilience at speed because it's happening now. This is not about preparing for a hypothetical future. The assaults on our systems are happening today, will likely get worse in the next couple of years. So I do feel that sense of urgency in DC, but it's very, very strong in Canberra this year as well.
A couple years ago, my team led the development of the U.S. international strategy for cyberspace and digital policy. All of you and your teams were involved in our development of that strategy. This morning, everyone had a chance to hear from Sean Cairncross. I know you've had the chance to meet with and talk with him privately as well. I think we'd love to hear your reflections on what you heard about the strategy in its current form. And given that it's not out yet, what, from your perspectives, ought to be in it? And Brendan, we'll start with you.
Sure. Look, I think we're all developing every couple of years new strategies, and there's this kind of virtuous cycle of stealing each other's ideas, building on each other's foundations, which I think works really well. And in cyber, we're often not necessarily diagnosing new problems. We're trying to find solutions for problems that have evolved or worsened or become bigger in scale, faster in speed. So I think something that you all heard Sean mention this morning was the importance of imposing costs on threat actors. All of you would know that that's not the first time that's been said. We've all been saying that for a number of years. But I really agree with Sean's point around the need to be more imaginative, be more aggressive and assertive in the use of those tools, because what we're doing is not working. What we're doing to deter malicious threat actors is not working. Over the last number of years, effectively, civilian essential services and infrastructure has come onto the cyber battlefield in a way that it potentially wasn't several years ago. And that's a bad development for our safety, for our security. So what we've done isn't working. We've tried a lot of different things. Some have worked to some degree or another, but overall, the landscape looks worse than it did a few years ago. So now's the time to be more assertive, more imaginative about the way that we impose costs, the way that we change the incentive structure that cyber criminals, that private sector contractors engaged by nation states face. So we would love to see some of that thinking in a US cyber strategy. I think a journey that you started, Nate, that I think all of us have continued, is thinking about the full stack, thinking about cables to data centers, to cloud in an integrated way. Again, that's something I think we've recognised more than we have in past years. That means coming at both the cyber threats, the insider threats, the physical sabotage threats when it comes to subsea cables, thinking about how they all link together, the interdependencies. Our adversaries are often better at understanding that than we are. So we need to get better at understanding the full picture and how we protect the full range of technologies.
David.
Yeah, I like the idea of shamelessly copying each other's strategies year to year. I think it's the height of compliment. In Asia, we say that we are crossing the river by feeling the stones on the floor. Another way of saying we're making it up as we go along. I think the idea really is that technology changes, the threat changes, so our strategies need to evolve as well. I think clearly one of the big challenges we see, and which I was happy to see in the US strategy, is the focus on critical infrastructure. I echo Brandon's point on the interdependencies. I think that the recognition domestically that critical infrastructure is interdependent. When we are now looking at whether we have critical interdependencies. There are some obvious, but there are other less obvious ones. So when we war game it, we realize that everyone's calling the same incident responders in the event of an incident, and then we're now trying to check if that actually the same 3 people are showing up for all the incidents, and whether that is actually a critical path we have to worry about. The other thing that I would be keen to see in the US strategy is international dimension to it. So the conversation this morning when Sean was describing the strategy, what I thought was perhaps lacking was any conversation about the international dimension. Cyber, by definition, is not domestic. It is international, it is global. There are interdependencies on a global level, and the cyber threats and our dependencies are similarly global. So I think that I would be very keen to have a discussion, some inclusion in terms of the strategy on where the international community, countries like ours, fit into this strategy as well.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I would like to follow up on what David said last, the global dimension. And then actually, I'd like to touch upon the regional dimension. Yes, when Japan thinks about strategy, our base usually is, as I said, Indo-Pacific. We think strategy in a regional context, and so as cybersecurity. So actually now we are also writing a strategy, new strategy, first in 5 years. And actually our office, National Cybersecurity Office, is quite new. It's still 4 months old. So new office is now writing a new cybersecurity strategy. And so what I want to be included in our new strategy is regional resilience. How we can enhance our regional resilience. That would shape our adversaries' behavior, I believe. So regional resilience is quite important element of our strategy. So I'd like to see in the US strategy the global regional aspect too. Yes, and David always says, cybersecurity is a team sport. Yes, I like that word, and I'm now using that a lot. Yes, cybersecurity is a team sport, and so in the Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific, we have to make a strong team to defend our societies.
I would say it's not just a team sport, it's an international team sport.
So you guys are great. The U.S. couldn't ask for better partners than this group. And we're sitting here talking about building on each other's strategies. We're talking about a deterrence failure. We're talking about the full stack. Ideas that I think all of us who come to these venues have heard before. So I think our last question, in just 2 or 3 minutes each, is say something new about cybersecurity. And in the spirit of not asking you to do something I'm not willing to do myself, I'll go first this time, and then we'll go down the line to Yukio. So for a long time, the U.S. has had a program called Foreign Military Sales, FMS, where we sell weapons to allies. Why should we not have FTS, Foreign Technology Sales, where we are selling the full stack to partners and doing it in an organized, integrated way with 2 knobs you turn in the same way you do in FMS. 1, the degree to which the U.S. subsidizes the deal. 2, the degree of sophistication of the tech. I think it would organize, integrate, package some work that's happening anyway, and it would be strongly America first. It would be good for U.S. tech. It would be good for allies and partners. It could absolutely be supportive of technology developed, trusted technologies developed by allies and partners. And I think it's an idea worth considering. So, Yukio, say something new.
Yes, new. Actually, I have already touched upon a little bit. I'm new, yes, and my... Yes, I'm a new.
Okay, you win.
Yes, actually, quite new, and sometimes I feel like difficult to catching up with the conversations here. But now I'm a bit grown up, but our office, the National Cybersecurity Office of Japan, is new. Of course, we had a cybersecurity center in the government, but the reason why we say this is a new, brand new organization is that we have incorporated national security elements in our office and policies. Back in May this year, our national diet adopted a new cybersecurity law. That law focuses on mainly the national security matters. So now our office has been expanded to include staff from me, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Defense, Self-Defense Forces, and the police, and the Ministry of Economy, and others. So our office has been expanded, and our culture has been totally different from the one we used to have. So totally new. And the policy would be, to us, new. Not new to U.S. or other front runners, but our policy focus will be more on the proactive, active side, proactive information sharing, more robust, proactive public-private partnership, and active cyber defense. So from reactive, passive cybersecurity policy to active, proactive cyber defense policies. So all those things are new to Japan, in Japan now. Thank you.
Thank you for actually such a substantive answer. And it's important. New can be relative. And the steps that Japan has taken in the last several years are extraordinary. And largely because of your leadership now. Thank you. David.
Thanks. Before I answer, I want to go back to what Nate said about foreign technology sales. I think it's an interesting idea, and I want to share a perspective, and that is about the Chinese tech stack. I think in the past, one would look at Chinese tech and said it was cheap and no good. then it became cheap and pretty good. And I would say that today it's getting better, in some cases better than the Western tech stack, but it's still cheap. So countries are facing real challenges. In the past, in Singapore, it wasn't an issue. We're rich enough, we could go on quality. But increasingly today, I'm getting calls from our critical infrastructure owners. 80% of them are private sector companies, listed companies who are trying to balance running a business and then looking at what is arguably effective, not just cost effective, but sometimes technically effective, more technically sophisticated answer, and asking, like, can we look at this? Can we use this? I think if you have something like foreign tech sales, that could help to mitigate some of the cost concerns that people have. All right, back to the question, something new. I propose, I've got two things to say. One is that I propose that reframing cybersecurity. We tend to view cybersecurity as a cost. We look at it as a drag, compliance, etc. I propose that we reframe cybersecurity as an enabler, as something good. We want to, all of us, want to reap the benefits of the digital revolution, of AI, new technologies, etc. It's a source of new jobs, it's a source of growth, it's a source of education, etc. But in order for us to reap these benefits, you have to get cybersecurity. You've got to get it incorporated so that we can innovate faster. So the way I see it is cybersecurity is like the brakes on a car. If you want to go fast, you need good brakes. So cybersecurity, you wouldn't dream of going fast if you didn't have good brakes. So if you want to innovate, if you want to reap the benefits of technology, and you want to go fast, then you need good brakes. You need good cybersecurity so that you can mitigate the risks. So that's my proposal. Second thing about what's new is that Singapore has attributed an APT threat actor. Okay, so that happened earlier this year. I think for the first time, Singapore has firstly had a senior cabinet minister come out to say that we talk about APTs. Second, to say that our critical infrastructure is under attack. And third, to name the threat actor. We didn't name the country, but if you just Google, you can figure it out yourself. But we named the threat actor. Now, there is a nuance, and I think in the Asia Pacific, we appreciate the nuance. Naming the threat actor gives a bit of wiggle room, because it doesn't necessarily mean it was state-directed. Nonetheless, it is significant. And why is it significant? I think it's because recognizing, number one, that it is egregious. Number two, our critical infrastructure, which Singapore and Singaporeans depend on, has been attacked. And the impact, if it's been successful, has significant impact on the country and to Singaporeans. So firstly, to educate our own people that despite, peaceful Singapore, that there are undercurrents that are not obvious, that we do live in a dangerous world, and you need to be aware of this. And second, to tell the threat actor, we can see you, and there are consequences to your actions.
That's a sea change. Thank you. Brendan.
Look, I'm going to cheat because mine are partially new, so I'm going to go three things. Firstly, we're wasting our time on cyber awareness. If the way we think we win the cybersecurity war is to make our end users more cyber aware, that's a losing strategy. We need to get better at fixing it up the chain at the network level rather than just burning money on cyber awareness. Two, when we think about the high-risk technology vendor problem, we've become too focused on the foreign ownership and control risk. That's a big deal, but we excluded high-risk vendors like Huawei and ZTE from our telecommunications network. Salt Typhoon still compromise them, right? So we can't think that if we exclude high-risk vendors subject to the directions of a foreign government that the problem's solved if they're just compromising the tech we buy from trusted vendors. So we need trusted vendors to really seriously focus on their cybersecurity. Thirdly, in my current role, I'm a regulator for critical infrastructure security. I believe in the partnership model. We've had it deep, intimate partnerships with our critical infrastructure operators it's not working for everyone. I have a regulatory stick, which we have not used. I think for some sectors in the next year, we're going to go from we're friends, we're partners, but actually you need to lift your game, and now we're bringing out the stick. We don't love to do that, but I think that's going to be necessary.
Terrific. Thank you all. Thanks to Aspen. Please join me in thanking these three global leaders.